From 1935 to 1987, the Canadian dollar had this design. It was referred to, or originally it was referred to, as the Indian and Voyageur. It's a nice design. I like it. It's a nice little bit of Canadian history. If you watch my first edition of Ships on Coins video, I do talk a bit more about what this picture is about. But this coin was never popular. It was never popular. In fact, it did not get a lot of use in general circulation. Most people trusted and preferred the paper bills, which was probably likely due to the large size and weight of this coin. This coin is 36 millimeters across, and it's 23.33 grams. Definitely a couple of these would weigh down your pockets and your purses. In 1968, it was changed to a 100% nickel coin and reduced in size to 32.13 millimeters and 15.62 grams. Unfortunately, I don't have any of the reduced nickel ones. In the early 80s, I did have quite a few of them, but they were so beat up that I decided that they were not worth keeping, and I ended up spending them. Store staff in many cases had never seen them before, so they initially were a bit leery, but they did accept them. And so while these were nickel dollars, many people still continued to refer to them as silver dollars, though of course there was no silver in these newer ones. I still remember my local radio station giving away nickel dollars at a local festival in the 1970s and calling them silver dollars. I paid them a visit at the festival, and I brought my trusty Carlton Standard catalogue of Canadian coins, not this particular one, an older late 1970s issue, of course, and I pointed out the error of their ways. After that, they just referred to them as $1 coins. Canada, like most countries, suffered from rather high inflation in the 1970s and into the early 1980s. Not hyperinflation, mind you. See my video on Brazilian hyperinflation. But there was enough inflation in Canada that eventually a dollar wasn't buying very much. And on top of that, vending machine manufacturers complaining of having to handle large quantities of quarters, 25-cent coins that is, which was the highest denomination that was commonly used at the time. The solution, at least for Canada, was to resize the dollar coin into a size that would not weigh down wallets and give it a different metal color to easily differentiate it from other denominations and make it 11-sided so anyone with bad eyesight could differentiate it as well. Why 11 sides on the coin? Well, 11 sides would give the coin, or any odd number of sides, gives the coin a consistent diameter all around, which makes it possible for vending machines to scan it and see that it is a consistent diameter and won't reject it. Having 11 sides made it round enough to easily roll. This was also important for vending machines. If it doesn't roll easily, it's going to jam. And this new coin was going to have a gold-colored bronze plating over nickel and would weigh only 7 grams, 1/3 the weight of 4 quarters. The canoe design was not going to be changed. So, having said that, you're probably thinking, well, how did it end up with a loon on it instead of the old canoe picture? Well, I'll get to that story in just a moment. The plan was to make the master dies at the mint in Ottawa and send them to the branch mint in Winnipeg where the coins would be struck. Striking of the new coins was to start in January of 1987. The $1 bill would then be withdrawn starting in 1989, provided Canadians were actually using and accepting the new coin. Only a few years before, back in 1979, the U.S. introduced the Susan B. Anthony dollar coin with the plan to withdraw the $1 bill. Well, as my American friends all know, it failed miserably. Americans hated the coin for various reasons. They refused to accept it as change, and I'll do a more detailed story on that fiasco sometime in the future. So, what happened with the Canadian $1 coin? When a new coin is to be struck, a master die is made in Ottawa. A master die has a raised design, just like the coin. It is made of a very, very hard steel, and it is then used to strike the secondary dies, which are then used to strike the coins. On November 3rd, 1986, the master dies were ready to be shipped, but the Mint decided to save some money. They shipped both dies together by a letter courier. Normally, master dies would be shipped separately by a high-security courier, but the Mint decided that they would save themselves $43.50. The courier rep who picked up the package was not even asked to show credentials, though the later investigation determined that, in fact, he was a legitimate employee of that courier company. I do not know what courier company it was. I've not been able to find out, though one can imagine the company would not want to have this informal logo as we were the ones responsible for the Loonie. So that's probably why the name of the courier has been kept a very well kept secret. 3 days later, the dies were supposed to have arrived in Winnipeg, but no sign of them. 11 days later, still no sign of them. So the Mint called in the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. The police determined that the dies had disappeared in Ottawa, likely stolen by someone who noticed the package saying with the name Royal Canadian Mint on the label. This is why, of course, if you buy anything direct from the Royal Canadian Mint, it does not say Royal Canadian Mint on the package. Why? Because you might as well, if you're going to write that on it, you might as well write, "Please steal this package." By the way, for anyone who is mailing coins, if you have to declare the contents on a customs declaration, you do not have to write something like silver coins or gold coins. Again, that's just like writing, "Please steal this." It's better to write something like collectibles. This is what the staff at my local post office suggested I do, so as to make it safer to ship. And it has worked for me. I have not lost a shipment yet. Fingers crossed, fingers crossed. The Mint, on the other hand, has managed to lose master dies at least 3 times, like 3 times that I know about. There might be more, but they keep some of these things a secret, In 1982, a set of master dies fell out of a truck in Ottawa, but they were found by an honest citizen who handed them over to the police, and they eventually did make their way back to the Mint. I don't know the name of the company that allowed it to fall out of their truck either. Lucky for them, they'd be out of business by now anyway. In 1984, a set of master dies were to be used to strike dies for transit tokens. But these master dies disappeared somewhere between Ottawa and the secret southern U.S. city that they were supposed to go to. They were never found. And of course, the dies for the new dollar coin were also never found, though it's been said that they're probably hanging around in Ottawa somewhere. So now the Mint had a serious problem. The missing dies could be used to make counterfeits if the Mint went ahead with the planned design, the old canoe design. So they made a quick decision. They had to come up with a new design, and they had to do it fast. So, in 1976, an artist named Robert Ralph Carmichael, there's a great name, submitted a design for the 1978 $100 gold commemorative coin. His Loon design was rejected, and it was filed away. So, on June 30th, 1987, a new $1 coin was released. with the Loon design, 6 months behind schedule. Some people complained, but became more accepting within a few months. Now, the name. Prime Minister of Canada at the time was a guy called Brian Mulroney. So even before the release of the new coin, I was suggesting the coin would be called the Mulroney Loonie. Well, I was half right. The $1 bills soon disappeared, their average lifespan being only about 9 months compared to an average of 30 years for the coins. And the $1 coin became known as the Loonie, and it has become a Canadian cultural icon. For lack of a better term, that's what I would say it has become. Many American tourists bring them back to the US as souvenirs. If you watch or read Canadian business news, you will often hear or see things like, "The Loonie is down half a cent against the US dollar as of 2 p.m. today," or something to that effect. Parents sometimes buy their children a piggy bank to encourage them to save money, but in Canada, children are encouraged to save their loonies in a special piggy bank called a Loonie bin. I kid you not. The greatest Loonie story, however, involves ice hockey. Of course, this is Canada we're talking about, so of course it's got to be ice hockey. At the 2002 Winter Olympics in Salt Lake City, the hockey rink was under the care of the National Hockey League's ice-making consultant. Yes, there is such a thing as a job as an ice-making consultant. The consultant and his team were, of course, from Canada as well. They soon discovered that there was no dot at the center ice to be used for face-offs. So one of them came up with the idea to mark the center with a Loonie. It was eventually covered with yellow paint, though, and so you had to know the Loonie was there in order to actually spot it. This lucky Loonie was kept a secret until after the Canadian men's and women's hockey team won the gold medal. That Loonie is now in the Canadian Hockey Hall of Fame. There was no lucky Loonie in the ice at the Turin Olympics in 2006, though the women's team still managed to win the gold. In Vancouver, of course, there was a lucky Loonie put in center ice, and Canada won gold in both men's and women's hockey. When the speed skating rink was being built in Vancouver, at least 200 Loonies were added to the concrete as the foundations were poured. Canada managed to win 5 medals in speed skating, including 2 gold. Not bad, but not really stupendous either. To celebrate the Lucky Loonie, the Royal Canadian Mint now makes an official Lucky Loonie every Olympic year. It includes an official Canadian Olympic logo, and the loop, the Loon that is in different poses than from the regular circulating Loonie. This is the 2008 edition. The Olympic logo is at the bottom right there with a loon about to take off out of the water. The other side, of course, is the portrait of the Queen, as we always have on the obverse of Canadian coins. And then this, the 2014 edition, it also has a loon about to take off out of the water and has the Olympic logo on the left, just above the loon's wing. You'll notice that there's another maple leaf insignia, a little hard to see here. Let me see if we can get a little better look at it here. But there's another maple leaf insignia above the head of the loon. This is a security device, believe it or not. Because, yeah, Loonies have been counterfeited. And this is one of the things that was done to attempt to make counterfeiting harder to do. So, yeah. Watch out for counterfeit Loonies if you're in Canada. So, if you like this video, please hit the thumbs up. Please subscribe if you haven't already. And of course, if you subscribe, don't forget to ring the bell. And if you have any questions, please post them in the comments. Any suggestions, please post those in the comments as well. And let me know if there's any others coin stories or subjects that you'd like me to talk about. And I thank you again for watching today.